What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and whatever time it is, and welcome back to yet another video with you, man, Immersionholic. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another head-to-head episode as Rome for our Divided to Para head-to-head campaign for Total War Rome 2 with my man Toxborg playing as the Seleucids, of course. And ladies and gentlemen, today is our final episode for this head-to-head campaign. Although I will say we are not ending this campaign because of any technical issues. We actually will have a proper ending to this campaign, so that's a nice little refreshing change. Often head-to-head campaigns will end because of technical issues, but that is not the case with this one. Although it's good timing because we currently have the new DI update coming out anyway. However, let's get into it. So today we will be organizing the 5th and the 1st Legion down here in the Peloponnese. Both of the legions have been suffering attrition due to winter and due to some minor supply issues that we've had around the city of Elis. Both legions will be converging on Olympia. They'll be reorganizing their units and getting rid of some more useless ones and trying to figure out their situation. Off the coast here, we have a full-size Seleucid fleet coming straight for Zakynthos. Now, we have recruited a general and hired some emergency mercenaries to try and hold the city, but we don't have enough money to get many more mercenaries, and obviously Toxborg isn't going to attack with just a one navy. So while we can hold off against one navy, he's going to wait until he gets more navies coming in. That's just obvious. So even though we would win if he did assault right now, at least most likely, he isn't going to choose to do that, so we'll be stuck blockaded in the city of Zakynthos for a few months at the very least. And down here you can see our suspicions are brought to fruition. A second Royal Seleucid Navy is seen just off the coast of Pylos down there in the south, so very concerning indeed. These Seleucids are coming with all of their strength, and we just don't have the money to counteract it. And we also find out that they took the city of Impera right here from the Spartans, and that's why their navies are having such an easy time launching invasions into our territory. So they have a springboard that they took for free, essentially. Speaking of taking things for free, Corinthos actually had fallen to the Seleucids from the Spartans, and now Argos has also fallen to the Seleucids. The Spartans do have quite a few armies in the area, so we will see them counterattack. But it is quite concerning that the Seleucids are so easily able to punch through Spartan territory and take over these key cities that the Spartans require for their economy to be maintained. And here we have the Spartans launching their counterattack on Argos. The Spartans, the AI, are attacking, so now we get to control them and lead 2 of the 4 Spartan armies. Remember, we're only allowed 2 military forces per battle. So 2 of these Spartan armies will go on ahead and attack the Seleucid king himself, who is hiding just outside the walls of Argos. Here we are on the battlefield. You can see we have 3 main entrances to this fort. This is not inside of Argos. This is one of the Seleucid armies. There's 2 in the area. One is inside of Argos and the other is outside of the walls, and this is the one outside of it, obviously. It's led by the Seleucid king, and he will be hiding in his fort for probably the duration of this battle. We have our Spartan army forming up here, swords on the left, cavalry on the left, and all of our hoplites are in the center in a massive formation. And we will be regrouping with our second army that will be coming in. But again, do keep in mind, one of the house rules me and Toxborg have been using in this campaign is only ever using 2 military armies or forces in a single battle. So I will be having to withdraw 2 of the other armies, but that's not a big deal. We should still be okay. We then also have this small little Skiritai swordsman contingent out here to the east of the fort. While they do look like they're in the open, they actually have the stalk ability, so they won't be seen by enemy forces for some time. After quite a while of reorganizing our troops, we finally get these Spartans lined up. We are presenting a full single line formation towards the enemy, complete with hoplites and pikemen marching forward. And since we are recording this post narration kind of content, I thought I would go ahead and do it with our visual mods turned on, so the weather's going to change a little bit slightly and it's going to be a little bit darker. And we see the beautiful sun of the southern Peloponnese shining over the Spartans as they march forward against the Seleucid menace. Absolutely no rush in this march. Take your time when you're in this kind of situation. That's what we're going to try to do here. Even though the Spartans are not around our own troops, we want to deal as much damage to the Seleucids as we can. Speaking of these Seleucids, they actually had their king hiding out here in the forest. It seemed like he was planning to try and ambush the Spartans, but unfortunately for him, he failed pretty miserably, and so he will return back inside of his fort, or at least go and hide behind it, while the rest of his troops that he also had outside fall back inside like the Seleucid cowards they are. So what we're going to do is split up our army into contingents. We're going to have one main contingent heading towards the southern side of the fort right here. Now we have a second contingent over here on the left. They will be flanking around to the western side or to the left hand side as well. There's a few extra hoplites over there, so they will form up a second battle line that will basically act as reserves and be basically shifted along the battlefield wherever we need them. We have our cavalry out here on the far right hand flank, and they actually get engaged by the Seleucid cavalry. They send forward a single skirmishing unit, and you'll note that we have a lot of swordsmen right here. These are more of these Skiritite swordsmen that have the stalk ability. So right now, these swordsmen right here are not even spotted by the enemy cavalry that is right in front of them. These Seleucids have no idea what they're walking into, so combining those swordsmen with pelters will actually be ambushing this single little unit of cavalry. They'll be able to try and outrun our men very easily, so that won't be too much of a big deal, but we will get some free hit point damage against them, and even a few kills on the first volley, so that's not bad at all. And we'll be using our swordsmen to support our cavalry in future engagements. After that little engagement, the rest of the Seleucid cavalry actually came out to play, and again we have all of our swordsmen and pelters right here that are all completely hidden. So as far as these Seleucids are concerned, they only see two of our cavalry units, at least until they get too close. And you can see here, the volleys of javelins from our swordsmen are pretty devastating, and they are just enough to force these Seleucids back. As the battle continues, we begin sweeping around the eastern side of the fort over here to the north, where the enemy cavalry is now shifting their focus to the western side of the battlefield. Most likely due to targeting our skirmishers. So what we're going to do is form up a defensive position behind our skirmishers, protect them, while we're also bringing our own contingent of cavalry around to the western side. In the meantime, our hoplites will begin trying to burn down the walls of the fort. The entire purpose of the fort is to funnel us into tiny little entrances, so instead of doing that, we're going to negate those entrances and make our own. The battle continues with all of the enemy cavalry now being thrown into the mix. Again, we do have our swordsmen nearby ready to throw in their javelins. They still have another volley left. So they will get quite a few kills. They'll be able to come in and get involved in the melee. Unfortunately, we didn't have any spearmen nearby, and we only had 2 units of cavalry that were not very good. So the Seleucids will have the advantage at cav, but that's okay as far as we're concerned. We just need to stop the already massive cav advantage that they have from getting too out of control. The cavalry battle kinda is a bit of a stalemate right here. We take some casualties, but so do they, and they end up retreating just before our hoplites could come in and get too involved. The Seleucid king finally chooses to do some fighting, but of course once again runs away from our own men. In the meantime, we begin pushing quite hard into the fort. We've made multiple entrances through different sections of the wall, mainly going in from opposite sides, from the east and the west, and our skirmishers are targeting the enemy elephants. Those elephants are super weapons, so we really need to make sure that we take them out. Even if we lose this battle somehow, I want those elephants gone. We do not want these Seleucids to use them against our Roman legions. The battle continues as we begin burning down even more sections of the fort, and the elephants that we were just talking about actually go berserk. Now you'd think this would be an amazing opportunity where they get a lot of friendly kills, however, they hardly killed any of their own troops, unfortunately, and they were berserk for quite a while. I'm not sure if it's something to do with the Seleucid Syrian mercenary elephants, or maybe just that feature in general has been toned down a lot, but I only saw a few of the enemy soldiers getting knocked over, and only a few of them died from it. But regardless, our infantry are still pushing through. The enemy spearmen and swordsmen are no match for the quality and the discipline of the Spartan hoplite formation. So we're trying to use our hoplites to go around the pikes in front of them, and then they will be dealing with the enemy support units and then being able to outflank the pikes, which is going quite well in general. However, the elephants do come back from being berserked, and that's really not good for us. They go through their own pike unit, as you do in Total War Rome 2. You can just walk through your own units, and they will turn around and do a pretty devastating charge to a really large contingent of our own hoplites. However, we do have all of our swordsmen and a few skirmishers nearby that will instantly go in and swarm the elephants. We absolutely need to kill them if the Roman legions nearby are going to have any chance of trying to deal with this Seleucid army, if they somehow win, although it's unlikely they will. Meanwhile, the Spartan pikes are now taking on these Seleucid silver shields completely in a 1v1. So far, it's been a little bit of a mess for the Spartans on this side of things, but the silver shields have taken some casualties due to being outflanked and being skirmished slightly. Here you can see we're starting to finally make some serious ground into the fort. Not only do we have one section on the east side, but we now have these southern entrance completely pushed through. We're now even getting small little holes on the western side with this single unit of hoplites pushing forward slowly. So the forces of the fort are essentially crumbling in multiple different areas. Even here, as we're talking, in just a matter of moments, we even have more gaps opening against the enemy. The Seleucids do try to push out with some of their pikes, where they'll kind of walk through our units and then turn around and do some funky looking moves. Kind of wasted a lot of our hoplites due to something like this, but it is what it is. Hoplite and pike warfare in this game is a little wonky, unfortunately. So we will take some casualties among our very good Spartan units, but the silver shields are on the brink of breaking, and their support units are as well. Just as the enemy fort is about to fall, we see the Seleucid king doing what Seleucids do best, running away, of course. The king is trying to escape the battlefield. Here he is on his own. He has his cavalry support units with him, and he's actually going to sacrifice them just so he can actually retreat himself and save his own skin. The Spartan cavalry tries to stop him before he can reach that blue line we just marked. Unfortunately, though, the one unit that we do get to catch up to him is too weak to stop him. They can't get in front of him, and they won't even get any kills. They will do some damage and leave a few javelins in the behinds of some of these horses, but that's about it. The Seleucid king does flee off the battlefield, although the Spartans actually win a major victory in annihilating the Seleucid king's royal army. And here we are back on the campaign map. We actually had another battle immediately after that last one that I just showed you guys. However, I'm not going to bother showing you guys this battle. It was inside the town of Argos itself, and it was a lot more grindier, but we still ended up winning as a Spartan. So at the end of the day, the two Seleucid royal armies in the area did end up getting wiped out, although the king was able to escape as the generals were swapped, I believe. And so the Seleucid king didn't die, even though his army essentially did. But all in all, that's good news that the Seleucids did take some pretty serious losses. In the following turn, we send out our spy to check out Argos, and the Spartan forces are pretty depleted at this point, which is very concerning for us. We know these Seleucids can recruit more armies very, very quickly, and in just a matter of 2-3 turns, we're going to have another few 2020 stack armies in the area. In the meantime, the 5th and 1st Legion are still recuperating around Olympian Elis, Alice is still out of supplies and is still recovering from the devastation of the Roman siege there, so they're not too much helpful. Although they're thankfully not taking any invasions from the northeast, from the Arcadians. However, in the meantime, these Seleucids are launching a amphibious assault against Zakynthos. And while we do have mercenaries there and a small garrison, it is just a small garrison. And so me and Toxborg agreed to just auto-resolve this and not bother trying to do a little grindy fight that won't really lead to any tangible benefits regardless. So with that, we auto-resolve and lose Zakynthos. Even in the auto-resolve, we did not do all that much damage. We just slowed him down for a few more turns. But of course, being Greek, Zakynthos won't really rebel from them anyway. In the meantime, we get even more bad news. The Macedonians have a massive army just to the southeast of Anactoria, which is our most southern Epirate holdings. In addition, they also have another army northeast of Elis. So the Macedonians are now amassing very large forces on our border. In addition, the Seleucids have also landed more armies around Argos and are marching towards Olympia. So now we are basically preparing the 5th and the 1st Legion for a final stand position outside of Olympia. They are going to try and hold at the statue of Zeus out there at the temple of Olympia. If they can hold there against this Seleucid invasion, then perhaps we'll be able to turn the tide of the war. But here we could see a Corinthos, and just southwest of it, and there's at least 2 major armies, and then there was also another full fleet working its way around the southern coast of the Peloponnese. So essentially, this is starting to look like a bit of a GG to this campaign. It's all going to come down essentially to what our legions can do. However, up in the north, it might not even matter because these Seleucid navies are still pushing deep into our territory. They are literally outside the capital of the province of Macedonia and Greece, called Chiera. So with the Macedonians dealing with the Aetolians, who were friendly towards us to the south, and they now have no further enemies, they will be coming towards us within the following turns. So not only are these Seleucids launching all-out invasions of our territories, we have very few legions at home, or at least in the core province of Greece here for us, and the Macedonians are coming. So with that, we have the 1st and 5th Legion stationed just west of Olympia, and these Seleucid royal armies are coming in to attack us in a final confrontation with Rome versus the Seleucids. One of these Seleucid armies besieges the city of Olympia. In the meantime, its other 2 armies end up taking on our 2 legions in a head-on direct clash. Unfortunately, our legions were not prepared for this kind of battle. We don't have the units that are very good at countering the Seleucid armies. The legates of each legion know this, but there's nothing we can do. The 1st Legion and the 5th Legion have to do their best with their Greek allies and hopefully turn the tide of the war back in our favor. Otherwise, Rome may have to consider pulling out of Greece altogether. Let's go ahead and jump into the Battle of Olympia. Here we are on the battlefield. The 5th and 1st Legion have been combined into an entire massive army right here. I'll be going over the details of the units and their positioning shortly, but you can see essentially the Roman units are on the left-hand side of the army, and our Macedonian ones are in the center and the right. A mixture of Greek allies are also all around our army. We even have some siege equipment actually in this army, 2 Scorpion units, so that's going to be a lot of fun to try and use. But the Seleucids have massive amounts of very high quality troops. They have around 10 plus units of pikes, 2 Syrian mercenary elephants, and a lot of cavalry. On the left hand side here though, we have our Greek cavalry and Corinthian hoplites and Thurio spears. The Corinthians have a lot of troops in our legions. They've been very useful so far, but they're not all that loyal. So we'll see how long they last in this fight. We then have Rhodian mercenary slingers, some Roman auxiliary spearmen units. Then we also have the Tribune of the 1st Legion alongside his Principes, who are in the front line up here just behind our Scorpion. We only have 5 units of Principes, so very lacking in the Roman units department, but they're extremely disciplined and looking pretty friggin' badass, if I do say so myself. So at the very least, we'll get to see them in some decent action. But yeah, unfortunately throughout this campaign, we were just not able to use them to the extent that we wanted to. Moving along though, down the center of the battlefield, we have some Skirachai swordsmen, basically our Spartan guerrilla warriors. They'll be fairly useful in protecting our Velites, who we have 5 units of. They will be in the front of the army and will obviously lead the skirmishing phase. Behind them, we then have 5 units of Macedonian pikemen. Behind them, we have 5 more units of Cretan archers, so quite a lot of skirmishing potential here. Behind them, we also have the commander of the 5th Legion, who will be holding the right-hand flank of the army. And then on the far right-hand side of the battlefield, we have even more Corinthian Furios spears, combined with some Rhodian mercenary slings. However, our cavalry contingent over there is actually our Roman equites. So they are a lot more experienced than our Greek allies that we're using. And then we also have some more Skirachai Peltas around that are using the guerrilla and stalk abilities. And of course, our Scorpions. And this will be the first and only battle that we get to use these guys in. I probably should have tried to use them earlier on in the campaign, but it is what it is. The battle begins with the skirmishing phase, of course. All of our skirmishers are being sent forward, including our Scorpions, to begin skirmishing with the massive Seleucid army. In traditional fashion, the Velites will be leading the center, with our Greek allies a little bit deeper behind them on the flanks. The Seleucids are responding kind by sending forward all of their Cretan archers combined with their Rhodian slingers, and that's essentially the majority of the skirmishes that they have, and they'll be doing so in a massive line formation. We will be doing a little bit of a staggered formation with our slingers being more so on the flanks, archers in the center, and Velites up front. The enemy slingers begin firing first as they get within range of our Velites. Unfortunately, our Velites had very short range, so it's going to take them a while to get close enough to start dealing some serious damage, and by the time they do, you can see they're already suffering massive hit point damage and just total deaths overall. These guys are getting hammered by concentrated fire by the Seleucid skirmishing forces. In fact, this one unit on our right hand flank is only going to get off a single volley before it will need to fall back due to such severe losses. The rest of the Velites continue standing their ground though. These Seleucid slingers do begin doing even more concentrated sets of fire. However, with the forest right in front of them here, it is obstructing their view. They're not doing as much damage as they like. And as time goes on, our Velites get a little bit more support, and we begin engaging in melee engagements throughout all of these different sections. You can see the red arrows indicating attack orders being given to all of our units. Combining this with our slingers on the far left and right hand rear, and our Scorpions, who got like over 100 kills each, the skirmishing phase actually ends in the Roman favor, with the skirmishers pulling back from both sides. But obviously the Romans have far more skirmishers than the Seleucids. Now it's time to move on though to the next stage of the battle. To do so, we begin moving forward the left-hand flank in a staggered triplex A-keys formation, with our Principes being in a staggered set there. Cavalry will be on the left-hand side to support them. The enemy cavalry will be coming right at them though, so that's going to be a little bit scary. Our center of Macedonian pikes is moving forward with our 4 Macedonian pikes. I thought it was 5, but apologies for that, it's 4. And then we have our right-hand flank, which is moving behind a little bit slower than the rest of the army, and that is deliberate. We kind of wanted to set up a little bit of an angle to our formation just in case they tried to do an all-out charge against us. However, the Seleucids understand their superiority in this battle. They have the numbers and they have the quality in numbers. Our numbers aren't really all that far behind them. It's actually quite similar, although the majority of their army is made up of professional soldiers, especially the cavalry. They have a lot of cav up here on the right-hand flank in the hills, and you can see that they will be coming right at us. And in support of them, they have 2 full sets of Syrian mercenary elephants. These guys are expensive, powerful, and absolutely devastating to Roman legions. At least when the legions are prepared. Now, we did know the elephants were coming, but we'll have to see if our countermeasures are enough to deal with them. Our left-hand flank begins trying to spread out a little bit more to try and hold back the enemy cavalry. We have the Corinthian spearmen, and then our 2 sets of Greek cavalry which will be trying to do so. We also have slingers that will be trying to keep them at bay. The Scorpions continue opening fire, trying to deal damage to the enemy elephants. Unfortunately, even when they do try to hit them, they won't be doing all that much damage. It's something a little bit funky with the hitboxes of the elephants, but they're still going to be trying. In the meantime, the Seleucids launch an all-out assault with their right-hand flank. The elephants come charging right towards the Principe formations. Even though they're in staggered formation and then go into hollow square, it doesn't matter. The Syrian elephants just charge right on through and deal massive amounts of casualties to our troops. Our skirmishers are trying to help out, but in the meantime, the enemy cavalry will be advancing on our position as well, and thus they'll be attacking us from 2 fronts on the one little flank right here. Legate of the 1st Legion is not afraid though and tries to inspire his men by charging directly at the elephants with his personal bodyguard. In the meantime, the Greek allied cavalry on the left-hand flank here charges forward into the Seleucid formation, but our 2 units of cav against his 6 units over here, including his king, that's just nowhere near good enough, so we're not going to do very well over there. In the meantime, the rest of our army gets engaged in battle. The right-hand flank, while it does look kind of a little tricky early on, it actually will start swinging back in our favor. We have a lot of skirmishers over here. Our Skiritai Peltas are right here to support our cav, and they will do quite well as time goes on. So our right-hand flank isn't really in too much jeopardy. The Seleucids don't have all that much cavalry over there either. Our center is going okay, although we are losing that steadily but slowly, so we do have some time before the Macedonians end up either dying or fleeing, at least potentially. We even do have some gaps against the enemy lines, but we won't be able to expose them and use them effectively because we don't have enough troops to do so. Leader of the 1st Legion is still fighting the enemy elephants. They do go berserk up here and end up killing some of their own men, but it doesn't matter at this point. Our formation on the left-hand side has been all but obliterated, and things are very chaotic right now. You can see we have a major clump of friendly troops right here, and the enemy cavalry is just swinging around. They're going along the back-end side of their own army to try and find gaps in their lines, and they're also pushing behind the rear of our army. So they have so many units of cavalry at their disposal that they're basically flanking at both of our armies in both directions. There's essentially nothing we can do against their cavalry. There's just too many of them. They're too high quality. Seeing this happen, the Macedonians finally begin to waver, and not only do they not really get all that many kills, but they will be routing off the field with many men left in their units, dishonoring the Roman troops who continue to stand and fight. Speaking of which, this is a close-up of the legate of the 5th Legion. He was having a head-on collision against his Seleucid king in a little 1v1 there. They're trying to kill each other. Hopefully, the legate can kill the Seleucid king, and if he does, that might end up crushing the Seleucid morale. However, speaking of crushing morale, the Macedonians are completely fleeing the field. Our right-hand flank, while it's still holding out, because we had to rotate our cavalry away from it, it's now getting overrun, and the Rhodians and Spartans over there are holding out for just a little bit longer. The Roman troops over here on our left-hand flank are holding out with the final remaining cohorts that they have available, but since the Macedonians have gone ahead and deserted us, we're now out of cavalry. Our legate, one of our legates is being killed, the other one is about to, and our Principes make a final stand in this square formation as they get surrounded entirely by the Seleucids and crushed. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the 1st and 5th Legion of the Roman Republic are completely wiped out, and it looks like it's time for Rome to pull out of Greece. And here are these stats. If you would like to pause the video and have a look at them, you feel free. Unfortunately, you can see that we just didn't really get anywhere near the amount of kills that we needed. The Seleucids also just had a massive amount of cav that we couldn't counteract, and all of their units were of very good quality. The best skirmishers in the game, the best pikes, Decent swordsman. Overall, just very hard armies to deal with, especially considering we didn't have enough time to build up our own armies to counter them. So with the 1st and 5th Legion being defeated here right outside of Olympia, me and Toxborg made a decision to end our campaign, and I am submitting that I have lost this campaign. So massive props to my man Toxborg, GG's to him. It was an interesting campaign. The campaign map itself was very fun. The factions themselves probably just need a little bit more rebalancing just for gameplay purposes, but overall, it was a pretty fun campaign. I haven't ever played a Macedonian Wars campaign, so that was a lot of fun. I really hope you guys all enjoyed that. Like I said, we had forces just outside of our capital, and Corcyra is blockaded by the Seleucid forces, and I mean, if I really wanted to, we could have ground out this campaign for a little while longer, but I would have lost regardless. Toxborg was just in a position where he was too powerful, too strong, and even if I could defeat a few of his armies, he can literally recruit entire 20 stack armies in a single turn. That's what he did in the Peloponnese, so that's why we're calling it GG's there. So thank you very much to my man Toxborg for playing with me. Link to his channel is down below in all of his head-to-head videos, of course. So do go check him out. Say g'day. But ladies and gentlemen, I really hope you guys have enjoyed this campaign. Sorry I let you all down, but I think we had a lot of fun on the way, and that's all that matters. So thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one.